Ancient Rome didn't conquer the world by accident. It earned it through discipline, sweat, and blood. At the heart of this empire wasn't a machine of gears and iron, but of flesh, determination, and unbreakable will, the legendary Roman legionary. These men were trained with relentless intensity, marching thousands of kilometers through deserts, mountains, and forests. Some returned home. Others never did. But whatever the cost, they never broke formation. So how did Rome forge? Soldiers feared across the known world, loyal to the death, and unstoppable in battle. The journey began with an ordinary citizen stepping into recruitment, and ended with a sacred oath that bound his life to the empire. In the early republic, Rome's army wasn't the professional force we think of today. It was a citizen militia where every free man was expected to defend his city. That meant leaving behind farms, shops, and families. There was no salary, and each soldier had to pay for his own gear. Once the fighting ended, the soldiers returned home and the army dissolved. This system worked when Rome was a small city-state, but as its territory expanded, rebellions broke out and distant borders needed guarding. The old ways began to fail. Rome needed a permanent army, disciplined, ready, and always available. The transformation began at the end of the Republic and was completed by the first emperor, Augustus. He brought in regular wages, campaign bonuses, and rewards of land after service. Suddenly, military life became an attractive career, especially for the poorer classes. But loyalty shifted no longer to the Senate or the city, but to the general who commanded them. And so the Roman professional army was born. Each legion was made up of 5,000 to 6,000 men, divided into cohorts, maniples, and centuries, each commanded by experienced officers. This structure turned the legion into a living warboard, pieces that moved, reacted, and obeyed with perfect coordination. At its peak, Rome commanded 150,000 legionaries and 180,000 auxiliaries, guarding over 10,000 kilometers of borders from Britannia's foggy hills to the Sahara's burning sands. Keeping this army ready was a monumental challenge, solved through a network of roads, supply chains, depots, and officers who could carry out a single order from Rome anywhere in the empire. But before wearing armor and holding a sword, a man had to survive the recruitment process. Officers called conquistadores traveled to towns and villages, seeking men aged 80 to 23. They judged strength, background, literacy, and even behavior. Only free men could serve. Skilled craftsmen like blacksmiths, carpenters, shoemakers, and tailors were highly valued. Literate recruits could rise into administrative or leadership positions. If accepted, the recruit received a metal ID plate. Losing it meant dishonor and punishment. From that moment, he lived under strict military rules. Training began for months. Recruits marched with 20 kilos of equipment, first 30 kilometers in 5 hours, then 35 kilometers at a faster pace. Rain, sun, cold, or dust, the march went on. They ran, swam, climbed, jumped, and learned to survive with little food, little sleep, and constant strain. Many quit. Some collapsed and never rose again. Rome wanted soldiers who could reach the battlefield already exhausted and still fight to the death. Once hardened, the recruit learned the art of combat. Wooden weapons, twice as heavy as the real ones, turned the steel gladius into a light extension of the arm. Slashes, thrusts, and blocks were drilled endlessly, always in full armor. The pilum, Rome's javelin, was thrown with perfect timing, its iron tip bending on impact so the enemy couldn't throw it back. Live combat drills, known as armatura, were led by veteran instructors paid double for their expertise. Every strike became muscle memory. Every block, a future life saved. Mistakes weren't tolerated, and punishment was harsh. Discipline was sacred. The centurion, commander of 80 men, carried a vine staff and used it often. Sleeping on duty meant a beating. Stealing meant prison. Cowardice meant a military tribunal. If a whole unit failed, the ultimate punishment was decimation. 1 in 10 soldiers executed by their comrades. Fear of the enemy made an army weak, but fear of its commander made it unbreakable. After months of training came the sacramentum, the oath of loyalty. In the Republic, it was sworn to the Senate and people of Rome. In the Empire, it was sworn to the emperor himself. It was not symbolic. It was life and death. The soldier swore to obey without question, never abandon his unit, and, if necessary, die for Rome. He received a bronze military diploma listing his name, service, and rights, wages, bonuses, land, and even citizenship for his family. From that moment, he no longer belonged to himself. He belonged to Rome. This training didn't just build warriors. It forged machines of discipline, men who could march for days, fight for hours, and hold the line in the face of death. 2,000 years later, traces of this system still shape modern armies. Rome's true power didn't come from marble or gold. It came from the legionary anonymous, hardened, bound to his oath, and driven by the belief that Rome's strength was built not on glory, but on discipline. If you enjoyed this journey into the heart of Rome's power, leave a like, subscribe, and as always, may Mars guide you in battle.